from Little Kids Rock. I am the Chief Academic and Chief Program Officer. And welcome to the third and final panel that we have for our thought leadership folks out in the field here. And so it's my pleasure, true pleasure, to introduce three amazing panelists who will be sharing some insight and providing great ideas, and also driving us to do real action to make a difference in our children's lives. Just to do a little housekeeping, just know that we will be doing a question and answering session during the last part of this panel. So all you have to do is put it into the chat, and we'll be able to address the questions as much as we possibly can. Just know that there's a 20-second delay, so when we start the Q&A, I'll let you know, and then we'll go from there. And also, I'll be observing the chat room to see if there are any questions that come up during the conversation as well. So let me start off by introducing our panel today. So we have Latasha Castorlo-Lala. She is the supervisor of visual and performing arts for Passaic City Public Schools, and that's located in lovely New Jersey. So let's hear it.
Yeah.
So she was an elementary music teacher, and then she became an elementary general classroom teacher. So she knows both sides of those worlds and how that connects, as well as she was the supervisor of gifted and talented students for Passaic Public Schools. So where she implemented the first Saturday Enrichment Academy there. And then she became the founding assistant principal at the Passaic Gifted and Talented Academy, the city's first magnet school in 2015, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then since that time, she's been the supervisor of visual performing arts. So, Latasha, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Right.
So, the next person I'm introducing here is Anthony White, otherwise known as Tony. Tony, I've known for many, many years. An amazing musician, saxophonist. I could speak to that personally. Mentored by this jazz musician. I think his name was Michael Brecker, or something like that. So, yeah. So Tony, he actually is a native of South Los Angeles, and I didn't know this. You were one of 10 children in your family, Tony. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was first in his family to attend college. He is part of the LA Unified School System, and he went to South Park Elementary, Drew Middle School, Fremont High School, and then graduated from Narbonne. And the amazing thing about that is that Tony's first teaching gig in LA Unified was at Fremont High School. So, and by the way, Tasha is also, she went through the Passaic City Public Schools. So both of you are from the same school system where you are serving your kids, which is fantastic. So Tony, from there you transferred to the arts education branch as the secondary arts administrator there, and then you transferred to Beyond the Bell as the coordinator for, it's the coordinator for arts and entertainment. And so you oversee that. That's the after-school program for all of LAUSD, which is about 65,000 kids. That's not 6,500, it's 65,000.
Yeah.
So you're doing that, and you've been doing that for many years. An amazing job. You have created great partnerships with the industry out here, both the entertainment and music industries, as well as you are the director, and you've been the director for many years for the LAUSD All District High School Marching Band, as well as you're part, or you oversee the All District Jazz Academy as well. So Tony, you bring a wealth of experience, and welcome and thank you for joining us, who is currently on vacation in Lake Tahoe. So that's a really extra special thank you for that, for making time for us. So thanks.
Thank you.
And then we have Ray Ramundo Vizcarra. Ray, I've got to know when you were teaching at Fairfax High School. Ray, you are also part of the LA Unified School System. I know that you went to school at Fremont High School, and Tony was your band director, correct?
So, yes, he was definitely.
Fantastic. And so, Ray, you have extensive experience as a music educator. You've teaching for 15 years. You taught for the Beverly Hills School District, and then you taught for LA Unified for several years. Like I said, we got to know each other. You rebuilt the music program at Fairfax High School, which had a long history of music education there. And then you've been at Redondo, Redondo Union High School District, I believe it is. You're teaching at Redondo Union High School. And so you've been there for about 7 years with that school district, correct?
That's correct.
So it's my pleasure to introduce to you Ray. And again, Ray, thank you for joining us. So really appreciate all three of you being here today.
Thank you so much for having me here. This is a really important topic. Thank you.
And again, we're really looking forward to hearing your thoughts regarding all of these really important issues and timely issues right now. Just a little bit about my background. The reason I know Tony and Ray because I was the music administrator for LA Unified when Tony was working with Beyond the Bell. And then I had the opportunity, very much like you, Latasha, to open a school. So I was a founding principal for a school that was located in historic South Central Los Angeles at Central and Jefferson. It was Central Region Elementary School number 17, which is always a very exciting title for parents and kids.
Right.
So, but we renamed the school after someone who's very passionate about teaching our kids about the history of music and jazz and popular music. So partnered with Quincy Jones. So it's now known as Quincy Jones Elementary School. Mm-hmm. And then I was the art administrator for Orange County Department of Education. And now I've been here for about a year with Little Kids Rock and loving every moment of all of this. So I want to start off with we're going to have 3 topics to discuss. And this is going to be an open dialogue. So the 3 topics that we'll cover is just discussing our music educator workforce and how it's not representing the students we're serving in our country. It's mostly white and mostly male, especially that within secondary schools. So that will be the first topic that we'll be hitting upon. The second one is the systemic issues that we see in our music classrooms, whether it's elementary, middle school, and high school, that prevents students from either taking music classes or prevents them from excelling in music classes, and particularly black and brown. And the last one we'll talk about is actually the systemic barriers and issues within schools and districts. So these are the 3 topics that we'll be discussing. Also folded into that will be discussions about curriculum and what we're teaching and everything else. So I want to start off, Ray, I want to start off with you leading the conversation and your thoughts and your experience as you earned your music credential and started your career in teaching to start the conversation. So the question to you is regarding music educator workforce. What actions do you see need to be taken in order for us to expand a music educator workforce that is comparable to the students we are serving?
Well, thank you, Steve. Again, it's a pleasure being here. Well, I will share from my own experiences. The band directors that I had were mostly Black band directors, And it wasn't until I started going to the all city band that I started interacting with other music teachers. There were other music teachers that I finally encountered. They were Latino, and there were some white band directors. But prior to that, my only experience, which has been great, I've loved all my band directors throughout high school. I started music pretty late in life, which to many it seems like it's too late to start. But I totally disagree with that, because I'm a product of starting in ninth grade, never having a music education prior to that. But what I would say is that it's important to have representation of what you have in your classroom. Like, say for me, if I don't have, say I have kids that are the students that are Black or Asian, and I have the opportunity in my new school right now to bring in instructors to provide the extra support that I need for some of the students, be it supporting me with saxophones or woodwinds. No matter if it reaches all the students, if some of these students see these kids on campus, see these instructors on campus that represent who they most look like, I think that gives them a level of comfort that, wow, I can be doing that as well. And I'd like to pay of course he's on the panel with me right now, but as far as putting that teaching bug in students, Mr. White, he instilled that love for teaching really early on in my junior year, where you have kids that I do lots of this in my school. I do lots of peer teaching, so I was able to help students in my section and in the baritone section, and that really made me realize, wow, this is fun. I love helping other kids. But you have to provide those opportunities to your students. But I feel like you need to, if you are not in a position where you could hire staff or people to come in, look into your local communities, because obviously if you have certain students in your classroom that represent other groups, that you might have these musicians out in your community or people that are in a music workforce, be it music educators at other schools, or if they're just musicians, if maybe ask them if they would volunteer maybe an hour to come up and give that exposure to those students that are underrepresented. So those are some things that I think that could be done. And what I also do is with the students is know my population, and as well as exposing them to the music that I think they should be learning. There's also many opportunities for them to have their music choices validated, whatever they'd like to play. So either you do a questionnaire if you want to do a general thing to involve the whole class. Other than that, you have them form smaller groups. And I've had this project that has been very successful called which I do pop mashup. Pop mashup project where they just get in smaller groups. And where I'm getting that at this before getting off topic is that in that you will see students that are not your typical leaders. So they're forming their own groups, and you see those leadership roles come out of these students that otherwise don't have that leadership role that has been bestowed upon them, whether they're a section leader or not. Because I usually separate. I said, if you're a leader, make your own groups. I want a group of leaders to make their own groups, because I want other kids to have that opportunity. So it is within this medium where you find those students that have specific interests in certain songs that they're interested, which most of the time it's music that they've grown up with. And as was my case, my band directors, going back to Mr. White, he really validated our music choices. I played in a Mexican group played traditional Mexican music, and Mr. White really embraced our ventures, and playing this outside of school, where it's another music making activity that has been validated by my music teacher. So that really made me proud of who I was. So it just instills that love for music and love for teaching and wanting to do more for others through music. So that's a few things that I could start with, because not all students will end up on leadership, but you have those students that are really interested in music, and maybe they're too shy to become a leader, but they have those leadership qualities within them through music.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I just want to chime in on that part there, Raimundo. Thank you for the validations of some of those things I'm always thinking about, because I think one of the most important job as music educators on the ground and also music administrators is to really inspire that that enterprising thing about what music is about. That's what I love about, again, say Little Kids Rock or any organization that's going to promote students to come together and to create their side ventures. Because you think about the pop music that is in this world today, whether, America's Got Talent, all these other things, Dancing with the Stars, those are kind of about individualistic type of situations as opposed to always the group. So if we don't inspire the individualistic things within our larger projects, our programs, then we're not going to give the kids what they need to be successful when they leave our programs. How many times we know about that tuba player who's just a great, fantastic tuba player, but then when he or she leaves the high school, they can't afford a tuba right away. So what other skills are we providing them with so that they can be entrepreneurial in their aspects about what they're going to do in life? That's so important. So when I was teaching, I always thought about our program. I'll kind of have a business mindset when it comes towards music education. And it's like when I was at Fremont High School, we call it the Pathfinder Band Organization. And one time it first started off as being the marching band. Then all of a sudden we had the concert band. Now we got the jazz band. Now we got the jazz combo. Now we got the drum line. Now we just kept adding things onto our shingle. We had the Latin band. We had whatever you called us, we were the one-stop shop to get that out. And that's why even now in my level as being an administrator, when we have our festivals, rather than just calling it jazz festival, we call it the Jazz, Blues, and Beyond. And that's because we want, so that people don't think, well, I don't have a jazz band, I don't have 5 saxes, I don't have 4 bones, I can't go to that festival. No. All you got to do is, if you have one person who can vocalize maybe an Ella Fitzgerald solo, or if you got a duo, or if you got a trio, whatever it is, you could call that the jazz, blues, and or beyond. And that's going to help to get people to think about things in a different format rather than it being the traditional formats that we're thinking, concert band, jazz band, et cetera, dance troupe. We got to inspire the individuals along the way. So thank you, Ray, for reminding me of that. And that's what I still believe in.
Yeah, I feel like as far as going back to getting, when you're thinking about who you want to bring onto campus, most of the time I feel that we get so caught up in the whole competitive world. And don't get me wrong, I am a competitive band director, but I think there are other things that are more important than that. And when you're looking at bringing someone onto your campus, you want to bring someone with this prestige or this experience. Yes, that's important, but you also have to know who your audience is. You want to understand how will this affect my students? How will this nurture the growth of my students, especially the students that are underrepresented? So you really have to have those things in consideration when bringing staff onto your campus.
Mm-hmm.
Latasha, you have anything to
I'm
throw
just
into
sitting
the
here
mix
in
or
awe,
thoughts?
and I just want to say that please recognize the absolute beauty in seeing an excellent teacher and their impact. That's it. Like, that's what we're listening to. That's what we're hearing. We're seeing people who are planting seeds of inspiration. And now there's another generation of music educators. It's actually beautiful to see from both of you gentlemen.
Oh, thank you, Latasha. And I think that when you said that word, I think it's very important. I think our main job as educators is to be inspirational for the next generation and to be able to communicate and to work together. And I think that's more important than any curriculum, more important than any theory, because I feel like some of the dangers, unseen dangers, that when our kids come out of college, they have a preconceived notion about what it should be. And rather than getting there to really analyze and figure out how it can be, and that they have the power to shape it, because it's always about maintaining, monitoring, maneuvering, and getting it to the next level.
Yeah, they got. I agree with you. It's because I'm like you, Tony, with your experience at Fremont. When I went to the school, you're not going to have the perfect jazz ensemble with the perfect instrumentation or what have you. So you've got to take the children where they are with your resources you have. And the thing that's really powerful is the engagement process of learning music.
Yeah.
So and don't treat it as a barrier. You gotta think beyond that. Don't be limited by it. So for sure.
Embrace
I
it.
just want to be exactly
Okay.
before I move on to the other topic, I do want to call out something that's what I've noticed and learned through higher education, and as we have our kids going from high school who want to pursue music education, I also want to recognize the racism that's held within some of the people who are teaching our kids, or the bias that's held within the different music programs across the country. I'm not saying everybody, but there are pockets of that need to be addressed, and we need to start calling it out. I mean, what are your thoughts about this?
I would absolutely love to contribute, because I think that I came from an urban district, and like I was a singer, I was a vocalist, and I sang everywhere and I did everything and for years. And there were a lot of essential pieces that I didn't know walking into a college music audition. And even if you can even go from what is even the criteria of that audition, it excludes a ton of stuff. I never forget that I studied for 5 years, and did everything I needed to do, and had to fight to put the songs I wanted to put in my senior recital because they were not considered a part of the repertoire. So I think that there's a lot of layers of that, and I think that the more people that understand and welcome and embrace diversity within music, and saying like this whole concept that music in essence, we kind of unofficially say, ends in like 1960. And then anything after 1960 really isn't music. And we don't say it directly, but we say it with what we play, what we showcase with students, what we reinforce, all the songs that we utilize to teach steady beat, to what we put in our standard repertoire. And so it's really important that we try to unmask that, because it's a wonder to me that we turn the interest level off. Right. Because we exclude so much. And listen, our students today, I have 3 kids, they are very opinionated. They have a lot of interest, and they know what they're interested in, and they have no problem sharing that with us. And we really do have to innovate and be more inclusive and educate ourselves, because we know right now there's a very slow shift in the higher ed world to be embracive of multiple different genres of music. We really have to work hard to help to bridge that gap, to keep students engaged and keep our programs going, because we're suffering due to our exclusivity.
Wow, well, go ahead, Ray. I'll let you go.
I was just gonna, as far as that whole issue with, I felt that at the first school that I attended, right out of high school, into a 4-year school, but it was a pretty bad experience, even from the audition process. I mean, I did not have a private teacher, as most coming out of school in LA. And when you go to an audition, I thought I was doing my due diligence. I went to the school and asked the director of this of the ensemble, one of the head concert band directors at the school. I asked them about what I should play at the solo, and I'm a go-getter. I would go on a bus and go to the music store and buy me a trombone solo, had I known that this person would say, "Oh, you just have to buy a solo piece and go." I had no idea that you could do that. That's something you did. So anyway, I played something out of a Disney book and ended up being pretty embarrassed at my audition. And for me, you know, I considered myself a pretty skilled trombone player. So when I went into school, I felt that the cards were stacked against me. And once upon starting at the school, it was just heartbreak after heartbreak. The only two people that really motivated me at that first school that I attended was my piano teacher and my music theory teacher. They understood, and it's like that compassion that you have. So it's the same thing when I have compassion for my students and their situations. They knew that I was coming to the school on the bus, and it just so happens that both those teachers were my 8 o'clock class, and it would take me 3 hours to get to school. And if I missed a bus, I took 4 buses to get to school. If I missed one, then for sure I would be really late. But they were very cognizant about that, and they were very understanding and very supportive. So it's all in that support that you give the students in order to have them succeed, because sometimes we have situations that we can't unfortunately get out of. So anyway, I ended up going to a community college where I went to El Camino, and I was supported by pretty much the entire staff, and my experiences in higher ed were much better at El Camino College. And I'm really proud to say that I had a really great musical experience there. And from there, I transferred again, and I was never looked back. I was just on the right track. But yeah, sometimes you need that extra support for some of these students, because it can be tough, and you need to have that compassion. And you might not understand fully what they're going through, but you might extend lots of support that they might need.
Well, you know, on that same topic of support, one of the things I do work on is building partnerships across the realm of LA Unified, which is so vast and large. And one of the things I am very quick to point out and recognize with different partners is to let them know about those stories, like a Raimundo story, or actually more important, like my story. I never had a private lesson until I got to college. So, and then talking to our teachers about how it's not just about teaching about the ensemble, it's about teaching about that breadth of experience, about what are we doing if a kid's in your program, say 3 or 4 years, how are we talking and throwing nuggets at them so that they understand if they want an audition for the Disney All-American Band, they know what that's about, first of all, and then maybe what the processes are, or if they want to audition for the Young Symphony Orchestra or whatever it is. The other thing I'd say too, as to all of our teachers, is embrace everybody. Raimundo was a very talented trombone player. He even left his high school to come to Fremont High School. I remember that, and so I saw that leadership within him, and to help.
Oh, he froze.
Did we lose him?
For the moment.
Right. He'll be back.
No, I know. I'll never know what he was going to say about me.
I'm sure it was going to be brilliant. So,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Latasha.
No, I was just thinking, I think like it's something that I know I'm personally trying to push in my district, but I think that people, and I'm speaking about directors specifically, get so absorbed in the ensemble, which is important, right? I think it's time to forget that we need to be building individualized musicians. And something that I'm really pushing with my own team is that you have to not only build the ensemble, because this is my opinion, my own personal opinion, ensembles at times really highlight the skill of the director. But when you're building and producing students who can be musicians independently in small ensembles and groups, you're really building musicians. And that means musicianship for whatever that student wants to use it for, whether that's a community band, a little ensemble, a gig band that they go out and they play at festivals. Like, to me, that's the real beauty that we're missing, because I think it's enough room to do both. And you know, our current situation is absolutely like drop kicking us into that situation, because we may not be able to be together, in these large ensemble groups. But what a beautiful idea to say, well, what's your personal goal? And something we're working on this year, where every instrumental student, yes, it's great you play. I don't care if you're a first year player, sixth year player. What is your personal goal this year? So if you want to go in our state, it's regions. Do you want to go to regions? Okay. Or do you want to start a band? So that student's not just working on our ensemble-based material, but they're working on individual stuff for themselves. And I believe that this theory will show that students will advance more because it's their own personal benefit, in addition to us as ensemble directors and programs reaping the benefits of their expertise and their mastery and their growth as musicians.
Yeah, absolutely, Latasha. I think that you're bringing up a really good point. I think that I was thinking when you were talking about this that many of the school districts are going to go back into quarantine. Well, they're going to start virtually, right? And as well as I do that some of these kids had the most challenging time getting on due to multiple reasons. And I would just recommend, I would like to throw out this recommendation to the field is that two things. So when I was definitely I worked closely with the parents and at the school, the one thing I noticed is that A, they definitely had a phone, and B, they had access to TV, but they definitely would have a phone. There was one way of connecting them. Didn't matter the level of socioeconomic level where they were. My suggestion is, as a music teacher, if you do not have contact with the kids, call them. I've heard amazing stories how music teachers have really impacted kids' lives by calling them on the phone. And surprisingly enough, guess who the only teacher who ever called that child was? The music teacher, right? And those lifelines are crucial, and you have to be aware of this and be sensitive. Why don't we transition to Latasha? I'm going to throw since we can't see the slides, I know that you have a question on this. Yeah. Can you see it?
I can't,
oh, cool.
But
so,
it's okay.
Okay, go for it.
It's funny. So we started this conversation, and the next question we were going to present is, what do we need to change as music educators to ensure students receive music instruction? I have a mouthful on that one because I think we have to change our approach. I think we have to really change and revisit our approach. Something that in our district we're doing, we did a whole overhaul. We used this time to really gather together as a group because we are spread out. We have about 15 schools in our district. So we are never together. There's one person or so in a building. So we really utilized the time while we were in distance learning to meet remotely and talk about what do we need to shift and change to increase our participation in our programs. And so one of the pieces that we did is we focused a lot on general music and this idea that general music touches every student for our district. And why are we not utilizing this amazing opportunity to recruit for our modern band program, our choral program, our instrumental program, our marching band program, really helping in gearing that up with students. And we've actually put together a beautiful curriculum that's a little bit different, connected to our new state standards, which are based on the national standards. And our focus is on genre-based instruction, really showcasing and highlighting genres of all time frames equitably, so that students can hear and learn and see about the music that they hear in their everyday lives, as well as classical music, traditional music, jazz, pop, rock, hip hop, rap, everything, of course, school appropriate. But the idea is, one, it brings in and sends a message that our students understand that we believe that their knowledge base is valuable and necessary and needed, and that our knowledge base is equitably valuable and necessary and needed. And in our little our surveys to our students getting their information, they're very excited that we're actually going to talk about the things that they hear and listen to, because the feedback they shared with us is that we don't value what they listen to or like, whether that's culturally, or even if within their, for us, I call it their urban culture, their identity into growing up in a city, in the Northeast. And just the idea that we actually hear a student voice. And I think that specifically in music, we're not as eager to hear, because I think the tradition is the director or the teacher is the source. And we really wanted to embrace the need that students have something valuable and that we can build something, together, and really help to guide their instruction, and then more importantly, gain their interest and support in growing our programs.
Latasha, I think you bring up a really important issue for me as student choice. And for me, after finishing my stint at Michigan State, learning a little bit more about student choice, it's gotten a lot better. But I thought in my head that student choice was, you play a bunch of music and, pull out some music that you selected and you have the students play it. It's like, do you like this or not? So, it is kind of student choice, thumbs up, thumbs down. Which in regards, I'm like, okay, I'm doing student choice, but no, you really have to understand that it's like, you have to get out of this process yourself. I mean, I'm slowly letting go of all the concert ensembles where I let them suggest pieces that they want to play. And I give them parameters because of festival and all that. But with jazz band, the last 2 years, it has been nothing but student choice. The students, I do not pick any of the music for my jazz band. I say, we have a library here, then go to this website. And sometimes they find websites that I didn't even know existed, or they're like an artist that they want to play, and that they have the music available. And sometimes I say, I have to rail it back. I said, are you sure? To my top band, they always want a very challenging piece. I'm like, okay, you do know that if we select this piece, I'm going to be on top of you to practice it because you wanted to do it. So just know what you're getting into. But, in the last 2 years, my jazz program has gotten so much better because the kids are playing something that they actually have, they have invested their time in. They've selected the music solely on their own. And at the same time, I let them, of course, I'm always supervising, and I let them run part of the rehearsal where they're the ones who are making the choices, dynamics. And, I give some just suggestions here and there, but it's all on their own.
What
Very
true
important
application? That's true application of their knowledge. I mean, because that's the thing I always find is funny when I look at ensembles, right? And of course, this is from the outside looking in because I'm not directing actively at this point. But it's this idea that how do you even know that they know it? If you're doing all the talking, like we used to say when I was an elementary school teacher, the person who's doing the talking is doing the learning. So if you're doing the talking, then you're also learning. I just wanted to address, I saw something in the chat by someone named Stephanie about saying how she loved to teach hip hop and rap and got a lot of pushback from parents. And, I want to, I'll just say it because the folks who know me here just know that I just say what I think. So I just want you to maybe revisit the idea that what is the real issue? Is the real issue about rap and hip hop? Because it's the number one music in the country, right? Or is the real issue about other components? So I think someone here, I think Grace Lee, thank you, Grace, said, do a student survey and get that information. But I think parent pushback is about a lot of different things, right? And sometimes those things are hidden, right? In the context of rap and hip hop, or reggaeton, or in salsa merengue. And so there's sometimes issues with ethnicity and culture. It's funny to me because nobody seems to have a problem with rap and hip hop when I'm listening. I'm watching basketball, all the beats are in there. I'm watching, a morning news show, and you see those, and they're using these beats. And sometimes I'm like looking at my husband, like, really? They're really using that? Because I know that song, and I'm shocked. But it's the idea of what does that symbolize, right? It is, I like that. Hip hop is pop culture. It is embedded in our fashion, in some of the foods that we talk about. And it's not just hip hop. It's hip hop, it's pop, it's Latin. I always crack up. Everybody loves Taco Tuesday. Everybody loves Cinco de Mayo, right? But if I say, let's play some ranchera, oh, well, listen, I don't know if that's music. Like, it is. It's a part of who we are as a nation. And in different communities, I know it looks different, but really not being afraid to kind of peel back what real pushback really means, because sometimes it's just the embracing of different cultures.
Can you guys hear me?
Latasha, yeah, we hear you, Tony. But we hear you.
I'm sorry, I can't see you guys. I have to be careful of my social graciousness, because I want to, timing is everything about listening and really being attuned to what's going on. But to echo on what Latasha was saying is that music has always been a reflection of now. And we as the music educators have to always assess and work with now. And if we go back and want to only teach what we know and not embracing the now, we're forever going to isolate our kids and our communities. And we have to be very, very astute about that. And also to an understanding, like even listen to Raimundo talk about having his jazz band select repertoire. That's powerful, but also too, during that process, we have to be able to acknowledge about how this repertoire was being developed. If someone is listening to Gordon Goodwin, we know that Gordon Goodwin was influenced by Count Basie and Duke Ellington, etc. It's always a historical trail that we need to be mindful of, but that we could still make it contemporary and hip and make it attractive so that we are keeping our kids connected. I think that's the bottom line, is what's going to connect kids. I used to walk across campus when I was teaching, and I would see kids who have guitars, and they'd be in a corner by themselves playing guitar. And I would come to them and say, you know what, you need to come be in the band program. And they said, well, I don't know how to be in a band. Well, once we got them in there, and then he saw people, doing things and figuring out, even if he has to play on his guitar, the flute line, now he's starting to be engaged, and now he might be inclined. Maybe he wants to learn flute. Now he plays flute and guitar. You dig? So you have to think about, what is going to get some of our kids jump started into it. So if they even, I believe in having a sequential, comprehensive music education. That in the perfect world, all of our kids start in kindergarten and they go all the way through lifetime. But as Raimundo pointed out, and he's not the only one, but they start playing when they're in high school. Okay, so if someone comes to you when you're in high school and they say, "I want to be in the band," you're going to say no. You're going to figure out a way to include them, figure out a way to get them involved slowly but surely, and they will get the hang of it, and that's going to make them a better human being, which is going to create a better community for all of us. Done.
Can I? Hey, Latasha, exactly, Tony. You've got to provide points for kids, no matter if you're at the high school, middle school, or elementary level. Latasha, I just want to reiterate, I think the idea, like you were saying, like the parents upset about the hip hop, I think, and you were talking about like teacher talk and student talk and comparing like how much it's like the sage on the stage type of thing. I think that one of the things that we have to be aware of is like asking more questions and actually meeting. It's really important to meet with people face to face. So talking to parents face to face and asking them questions, engaging them and listening to them, understanding, so that way you can understand where they're coming from and you can guide them to where they need to be. I mean, part of this is educating our parents and not being apologetic about it as well. And I also think that's a crucial part in terms of like, we were talking about like, what are some of the things that are the barriers in music classrooms? I think some teachers I've seen and experienced will not hesitate to send a child out of their classroom. If a child is being disrupted, they send them out immediately.
Oh, yeah. So
no conversation, no understanding, no follow through. It's that type of thing. Or you see, like even at the elementary level, which I find surprising, teachers auditioning kids. They'll go to, they have an itinerant program. They'll have a beginning band or a beginning ensemble, and they audition the kids before they go in. Tony, I'm dead serious, man. I saw this many times in LA Unified. So, I mean, so what do you guys think?
Steve, as far as, the whole audition, I had the luxury of doing that once I finally started teaching middle school and starting kids in 6th grade. But I didn't do auditions based on me. And I would take every student who wanted to be in it. My auditions were based on, like, you have to try, like, at least 2 of the, whatever instrument they thought they wanted to play, but you have to try this other family. So that way I see where their best fit was. It wasn't necessarily an audition to get into the program, because I know that one kid is going to have an aptitude for something. And even if they don't, example, I had 2 identical twins in my program once. One, they both wanted to play saxophone. One was like, took to it right away. The other one, it was like pulling them along the whole semester. By the end of the first semester, the kid finally was able to catch on. And I'm like, sometimes, it's a little late bloomer type thing. I mean, these are identical twins. I mean, but one was like, so his musical aptitude was like so high and he would get things right away. The other one struggled. But by the end of the semester, even the whole class, it was such a proud moment. Everyone would celebrate because, sometimes you check in with your students. So when he could finally play this one passage, everyone was clapping and cheering him on, and that smile on their face. Oh, it was incredible. But I think the opportunity has to be there for all students.
Again, I don't know. This is probably how Ray Charles or Stevie Wonder feels. But I can't see anything, but not to cut Ray off again. But I think there's a difference between placement and audition. And audition obviously has its place when you're at that level, when you have, a kid has some sort of proficiency, but at the same time, a placement, if a kid wants to be in the program, that's like the first and burning desire. It's like, where can I put this kid to be a part of that? That's like, come on, that's number one. Because I do remember, Steve, when I was in elementary school and I went to the itinerant teacher and I wanted to be in music, and they said, sorry, you can't be in music. You weren't recommended or whatever. And I'm still thinking about
right.
Who said I wasn't recommended? I mean, criterion. But then I'm going to go back to what Latasha was saying too about educating the community, and what you're saying too, Steve. I think that the biggest part for an educator, first of all, probably more than you go to music educators or arts educators, is that our job is constantly, I mean, you would hope that it wouldn't be, but it's constantly about educating the entire community. And especially now when we're going to go in, when we're in COVID-19, we don't know where we're going to be going, is that we are going to, one, have to be at the table. We're going to have to be, 2, make sure that we're advocating for all kids to have access. And that's where, again, where I come in, whether I don't care when I can have a kid, if it's before school, after school, during school, whenever, the weekends, just tell me when I can have a kid so that we can have them involved and connected so that they can be a part of this truly unique experience that no other art form offers. They need to be involved. They need to be connected. And that's what the hardest part we're suffering from right now during this time, obviously. But still, we have to figure out those ways and keep doing it.
Yeah, access to music education is important for all students, no matter their talent level. And as I tell some of my students or parents as we go to meetings, they say, I'm not expecting, I'm going to push my kids to do their best in this music program, but I'm not expecting all of them to become musicians or music educators. I want them to experience the music education for the betterment of themselves, because I know how important it is, and it was to me.
Right.
I was thinking about control, right? That's the word that comes to my brain. And you hit the nail on the head, Ray, when you said, it's about, them becoming appreciators of music. And, I say this to my team, that the goal is to make every student an appreciator of the arts. That's really our goal. Now, out of that appreciation, we may produce some amazing musicians. And that's
exactly
right. And we may produce some amazing visual artists, graphic artists, music technology folks. We may. But the goal is not to say that that's the only thing we focus on, because when we get that narrow and take on that level of control, we limit the power and the range that we can reach people. And so it's really important that we remember that the role is appreciation first.
Mhm.
And then I would say if we do our job as appreciators, and teaching them to understand and learn music and have an understanding, the rest will flourish and grow.
That's right.
Yeah. So we have about 10 minutes left. I did put in the chat. If you have questions, please put your questions into the chat. And then we'll answer those questions. Hey, Tony, we have the last topic that I wanted to throw your way here. What do you see as barriers in our schools and our districts that prevent our students, particularly our Black and Brown students, from participating and receiving a music education?
Well, let me start. Barriers, as we see that, I see it is it's multiple pronged, because it's, first of all, programs should not be based on the whims and the wants of only the administrators. Okay, I mean that administrators have to be, taught that, having a program of the caliber of arts programs is a no-brainer, and you don't sit there and cut that in the lean years, because then you're not allowing for it to grow and to flourish. Then you get to the other part about is identifying quality educators who can come into the different surroundings and environments to be able to maintain those nurturing things. So often I've seen, like for instance, Fairfax High School hasn't recovered since Raimundo left. Fremont High School hasn't recovered since I've left, et cetera. I go on and on and on down the line. And we see that. We see like in the movie, Mr. Holland's Opus, he had a great program. All of a sudden the budget cuts, it was gone. Well, we got to get out of that mentality. That mentality is not helping anyone. Because again, if we're talking about access and equity for all of our kids, it should not be, oh, there was a great program at that school, now they don't have it anymore. And that goes back to legislation type of issues, and that goes to school boards. I've happened to know school board members in our district, and they have told me that they wished, and one particular school board member wished that, when she was on the school board before, that she had not cut the music program, because she's now seeing so many years later that the impact that has made on the culture of music and arts. So it's like sustaining, maintaining, getting more kids interested to want to obviously be in music, but also too, looking at our colleges and universities and how we're going to be able to and motivate and encourage students to want to teach this. And that goes back to, again, what you're paying teachers and how you're incentivizing teachers to stay in the classroom or to become arts advocates, so that they can, have some true meaning and true depth into their teaching, rather than being, I'm going to teach 2 years and I'm going to jump out and be an administrator and then I'm going to do this. I still feel myself as being a teacher. That's my core identity. I'm a teacher, and I can walk into a classroom at any day, anytime, and pick up where the ensemble is, and I can join in the ensemble. And then eventually I can help teach that ensemble. We cannot be afraid to do that. And the more modeling that we have, the more contact that we have, and the more it's going to help to inspire the next generation when we're not here anymore.
Hey, Tony.
Yeah.
I just, everybody, it's funny that you said something about the school board member. I remember specifically we were on the stage at the Kodak Theater at that time, backstage, and she told me that when she was in LA Unified, the music teacher auditioned her for choir and told her she didn't have any talent and she couldn't be in choir.
Right.
So she had no desire to fund and support music education.
Wow.
Right.
So be careful about what we do as music educators and as administrators. So
right, we have to,
damaging.
Right, it could be a lifetime of damaging, and then that's
right.
What through us is to have that resolve and that tenacity, the perseverance to keep going, because that's what great art is, right? Great art. I mean, art is some people might love it, some people might hate it, but at the same time, if you don't do it, you'll never They'll never know. You'll never know. So for kids not to have that experience, that to me is a non way of even starting conversation. If you don't believe in the music and the arts, we need to go to somebody else and make sure they understand that this is what it does.
Exactly. When you were mentioning about Fairfax a little while ago, I just wanted to add that you mentioned, that the school did not have a music program for about 20 years, and I started basically from scratch. And I remember when I stepped into Fairfax, the school was underperforming and low income, but within quite a few years, it became I think as far as ranking in API scores, if that's important to anybody, it was ranked number 4 in the entire district. And I mean, I personally like to attribute that to the fact that we had a successful music program, and we had a successful orchestra and band. But out of all of that, my most proudest success out of Fairfax was that about 95% of my program, the students in my program, would attend college as soon as they were done with high school. Because that's something that I pushed on for the kids. I said, when you go to college, and I was using music as a medium, but lots of my students ended up going to college, and that's one of my proudest accomplishments that I have from Fairfax.
Great stuff. This is great stuff. I love that you see that and value it. And it's about transitional skills. Like, I always look at what we do in the arts as a way for students to take the skills and the process that we teach. Because I always say process is more important than product, right? Because if you've got the process, you can take it and repeat it any day of the week. But like, it's the idea that we're giving students some wonderful skills: discipline, tenacity, focus, teamwork, and they're able to take those things and then apply that someplace else. And I always say it's never about what, only what people accomplish. It's how you make students feel. What do they walk away from? And that particular school board member that you mentioned, Steve, they walked away with hateful music and anybody affiliated with it. So it's like, we've got to leave that taste. And I tell people all the time, they're like, oh, well, my ensemble, the kids don't participate. And, they get mad at me, and I say, well, then I would love to see how you are in general music, because it's whatever you're leaving at that point that may have some implications of what your enrollment is there. So you can't value one and not value the other. We have to give students an experience, I would say, that leaves them wanting more. And that's from our perspective, our passion, our personality. We have to have them want more. And before you know it, if more is modern band, great. If more is concert band, great. Or choral or orchestral, or just saying, hey, I just want to file all of the music. I just want to be there as a right-hand person. Great. We have a place here for you because we need you and we want you. And most of our kids actually need that from an SEL perspective, a place to be needed, wanted, and desired. And I always feel like music and the arts is that place. We take them all in and we find something for you to help you excel.
That's a perfect way to, that's a great way to end this conversation, Latasha. And so we're wrapping it up here. It's almost 3 o'clock. It's 2:59 to be precise. So, yes, I think that, like, again, some of the key things that we need to really push for is role models for our kids, right? I'm just going back through a few of the notes. Yes, and making sure that we have access, or we make sure that our kids get the education they need, and letting them and talking to them and engaging them in ways that that will help them thrive. I think about it as human beings beyond school, because we're in the business of doing. So, Tony, thank you so much for joining us. I know that it was crazy with the connection. I feel so sorry for you being up in Lake Tahoe, but I think you'll be able to manage.
No, you don't. I want to be there.
Ray, thank you for joining us. And and really appreciated you being here today. And Latasha, truly a pleasure to finally meet you virtually. And I look forward to meeting you in the flesh at some safe point in New Jersey.
Yes.
So, and continuing to stay in touch with you. So everyone, thank you so much for today. And thank you for everything and the suggestions you provided. And have a great afternoon.
Can we give a big
Thanks,
shout out to
Dr. Ray.
Elisa, thank you so much for connecting
Thank
us.
you very much.
Elisa Jansen Jones in the house.
All right.